Hi everyone, welcome back to my true crime YouTube channel. Today's video is very highly requested after my last video. This is the case of Robert Hoagland. And honestly, if you'd asked me when he vanished what had likely happened to him, the actual truth of what did happen is the last thing that I would have thought. So essentially, Robert Hoagland went missing for 9 years and then was eventually found. And it really is a roller coaster of a case. So I'm gonna just dive straight into it. Please do remember to hit the like and subscribe button if you do enjoy these videos. So in July 2013, Robert Hoagland vanished from his Newtown, Connecticut home. A little bit of a background about Robert and his circumstances, just to paint a bit of a mental picture for you. He was married to his wife Lori, and the pair had 3 children. They were all sons and they were fairly grown up. Now the couple had actually separated for 2 years at one point and had gone their separate ways. However, they did eventually get back together and decide to give it another go. And Lori stated that when he vanished, the couple had been discussing retirement and how they were going to spend their retirement and getting quite excited. I suppose something that would have been quite stressful for the couple is their 24-year-old son Max. Now he suffered with substance addiction issues, so he'd actually spent some time in a rehab facility in 2013, and this actually caused Robert to leave his job. So he was working in a restaurant and he actually moved to work for his friend's law firm so that he could better support Max. Robert and Lori had also talked about going on potentially a hiking trip to support Max with his sobriety. In July 2013, just prior to Robert's disappearance, Lori actually went on a 2-week trip to Turkey with some of her friends. During her holiday, her and Robert stayed in touch via text messages and nothing seemed to be the problem. The week before Lori was due back, so she'd been on her holiday for a week, and this week just before she came back to the airport, 2 of the family laptops had been stolen. And Robert was actually convinced that this was due to Max. He was convinced that Max was somehow involved in these laptops being stolen, and he was kind of suspicious that this was potentially for drug money. Robert ended up going to an abandoned building in Bridgeport to confront some of Max's associates. This was obviously about the stolen laptops, and he thought that these 2 were somehow involved. You know, maybe they were going to sell it for some money, but we don't really know what came of this meeting. On July the 25th, $600 was withdrawn from one of the family bank accounts. Now Robert spoke to his wife via telephone on the 27th of July, and the pair arranged for the plan for Robert to pick Lori up from the airport. This was actually scheduled for 2 days' time. Now the next morning, Robert took his wife's car to a local bakery. He picked up some bagels and then stopped at a petrol station on Churchill Road and filled the car up with petrol. He was spotted on CCTV footage at 6:45 a.m. buying a map from that petrol station, and this was his final ever card purchase. When he got back to his house, he just headed straight home and he had breakfast with Max, and then at around 10 or 11 a.m. he mowed the lawn, and there were some witnesses also across the road who said that they did see him mowing the lawn and talking to Max on the drive. So Max then went out in the car for the day, and the next day Robert didn't turn up to collect his wife from the airport. So this is when things just start to unravel and people realise something is seriously wrong. Lori tried calling the house phone and the mobile phone, and she couldn't get through to Robert via either phones. So she did start to get concerned, but she did think maybe he's just stuck in traffic, maybe he's just a little bit behind schedule. So she ended up going to a relative's house nearby to the airport to kind of wait and see what happened. Then Lori found out that Robert hadn't turned up for work that day either, so this is when she started to get quite concerned. She eventually got home on July the 30th and Robert was nowhere to be found. She was extremely concerned because she discovered that he had vanished without taking his phone, wallet or passport. His prescription blood pressure medication was also still at home, which indicated that he hadn't left of his own accord, and his dirty laundry was just chilling on the side. His Mini Cooper was still at the house as well, so so he obviously hadn't driven off in his own car. Laurie then had a call. I feel so bad for Laurie at this point because she then gets a call from police. I feel like Laurie is really trying to keep things together here, and I just can't imagine being in such a stressful situation. But the police tell her that her son Max, who we mentioned previously, was actually arrested the night before. So this was near that building that we talked about that Robert had visited about the 2 laptops, the building in Bridgeport. And Max was held in jail and charged with 3rd-degree criminal trespass for being in this building, but he also had no idea where his dad had gone. So police and the Hoagland family started distributing flyers and missing persons posters, but they had absolutely no luck in locating Robert. Police also questioned those 2 men involved in the, well, allegedly involved in the laptop disappearance, and they were cleared of having anything to do with Robert's disappearance. Now, at this point in the case, when I was reading up about it ages ago, I did sort of think, that's a little bit dodgy. I was kind of thinking along the lines of, I wonder if somebody has done something to him, taken him, due to this kind of like substances, stolen laptop situation. That's kind of the route my mind was going down, so I don't know about you guys at this point. Police then searched Robert's computer and found that he had downloaded a program to enable him to delete all of the searches off his computer. Now, I don't know how suspicious you guys think that this is. This was about a month prior to him disappearing, but I know that a lot of people clear their history and clear their computers from time to time just because it's kind of good for the computer. It's not good to have, you know, too much like data stored on there just for privacy, just in case, you know, somebody hacks your computer, and also obviously just to keep the computer working properly. So I don't know how much sort of weight I gave to that at first, probably not too much. Investigators and search dogs obviously continued to search the local area but found absolutely nothing of Robert. In September 2013, the Hoagland family actually began court proceedings in order to appoint a trustee to represent Robert's interests. Although they obviously hoped that this wouldn't be necessary, they were kind of putting things into place just in case. So all searches for Robert reached dead ends, and that was for 9 entire years. But all that changed, however, on December the 5th, 2022. Police were called to an address where there was reports of a deceased male, and this man was Robert Hoagland. Robert had been living under a new identity since 2013 in Rock Hill, New York. Using the name Richard King, Robert, it transpired, had actually been working on a contract basis as a property appraiser for a small company in New York. He had found a house share through Craigslist and started renting a house in Rock Hill with high school music teacher and musician David. Now, the pair didn't know each other prior to this rental agreement, but David knew Robert as Rich. That's how he introduced himself, and the two actually confided in each other about their recent apparent divorces. David had relocated due to being divorced, and he shared this with Robert, and Robert said that he also was newly divorced, hence his relocation. Now, Robert was actually renting this house off David, and David was actually subletting it to Robert, which he shouldn't have been doing. He wasn't meant to do this. So he didn't actually have to go through sort of scrutiny of like background checks and having ID and that kind of thing. So this is how Robert sort of got away here with having no ID. Robert explained that he just left everything behind, which I guess he actually did. He said he left everything behind, he wanted a fresh start. He did tell David that he did have children, but explained that they were adults, which they were, and that he wanted to start a new life. David reported that when Robert moved in, he had some clothing with him and a small bed. He used a car that his employer was loaning out to him. And Robert apparently paid for all of his rent and his bills, his share of the bills and things, in cash. David actually also agreed to put Robert on his like mobile phone plan. And because David did this, Robert also obviously didn't need any ID to open up like a phone plan. The two roommates were very close. They would give each other Christmas gifts. They had Sunday lunch together, which Robert regularly cooked. They watched the football together. They were really just like very close friends. In 2022, so this is getting close to when Robert was actually discovered, David claimed that Robert had gone to the doctors about his ill health. The doctor advised that he changed his diet up, so David noticed that he was eating a lot of kind of fish and things that were a little bit more healthy than his previous diet. Later on in 2022, Robert actually warned David that he would be getting some post through the door in a different name, and David just didn't think to kind of question this at all. On the 4th of December, David came home after a weekend away and saw Robert's car on the drive but didn't see Robert. When David checked the CCTV, like, you know, his security cameras, Robert was actually holding his back as he got home on December the 3rd. David noticed that he was kind of like visibly in pain. When David finished at work, he entered Robert's room and found him unconscious and not breathing. Robert unfortunately unsuccessfully attempted CPR but had absolutely no luck. When police arrived, and obviously David explained that this is Richard King, this is my roommate, they couldn't find any ID to sort of corroborate his identity. Eventually, through the police sort of scouring the property, they found the envelope with Robert's real name on, Robert Hoagland. This is when he was successfully identified as missing Robert Hoagland, who had vanished from his family home 9 years prior. Now, no cause of death has been released, but it's not thought to be suspicious circumstances. Police have said they are not suspecting foul play. In an interview, David, the roommate, said, "I just want people to know there was nothing strange about his life, other than the fact that he was able to just disappear for 9 years." So to me, that case is absolutely mind-boggling, and I still have got a lot of questions. You know, if somebody wants to just vanish and start a new life, there are ways of doing it. For example, having a divorce, doing things that don't put your family through a massive amount of pain. You know, he could have just split up with his wife and gone and started the new life and made it a lot easier for himself as well. He would have had ID, he would be able to, you know, he could have just legally changed his name. I don't understand why he's had to go to such extreme lengths. I'm also really intrigued as to how he got to his new location without using his car, his wife's car. Why he would just abandon her at the airport, that seems like just such a horrible move. I think it's pretty obvious that the $600 withdrawn from the family bank account was probably Robert preparing for his trip, and also obviously deleting those search history off his laptop was probably part of that as well. I still have so many questions for Robert, but obviously with him passing away, it just is like another dagger in the family's hearts. They will never be able to get full closure from this, just because of how bizarrely it all ended and abruptly. And it just seems such a waste of police resources as well, because obviously they were out searching, they were using their canine units, they had people all over trying to hunt for this man, and he just up and left of his own accord. Now, a lot of the time I personally feel that when police kind of say in missing persons cases, oh, they may have just gone off and started a new life, I always feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out, and kind of just means that they don't have to do much work. They just kind of blame it on the person, and I always feel like that's the least likely thing to happen. So when I saw that this looks like it was the exact thing that happened in this case, I was just completely baffled, and I don't know what you guys think of this case, but I'd love to hear in the comments. So I really do hope that you have found this video interesting. If you do have any other case suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will hopefully be back very soon with another YouTube video.